Welcome to the Crypto and Blockchain Talk.
Hello.
Hey.
Guten Tag.
Aloha.
Hola. Shalom.
Hello.
Namaste.
Ni hao.
Privet.
Hello.
Salut. Yassas.
Salve.
Ciao.
Bonjour. Our podcast talks about the latest trends in the worlds of cryptocurrencies and the blockchain.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Crypto and Blockchain Talk. And today with me, I have none other than Carmen Ziegenbein. Carmen is one of the world's foremost experts on terrorist activity, all of the types of deviant behavior that people subscribe to within the crypto and blockchain communities, which not borders on, but is just basically messing around with illegal activity within the crypto and blockchain space. He actually has now a course coming out on YouTube and I think some other channels. He'll explain in a minute where he's going to be. But Carmen has a full course, which is going to be released very soon for people within the law enforcement community and people who just want to know more. And it is called Academy Carmen. And you can actually find more information about that in the body of the text that accompanies this podcast. So first of all, let me just say hello, Carmen. Welcome.
Hello, Queen of Crypto. I'm so happy to be here.
I love having you on here. Okay, so Carmen, I know that I was very amorphous in a way when I'm trying to explain how you basically are the person who trains law enforcement and explains to people how to find people out there in this big bad world who are doing things and taking advantage of people or engaging in otherwise criminal activity. So can you, in a nutshell, explain exactly what it is that you do?
So we do a couple of different things. So we do forensics. Everything around is really cryptocurrency. So we do forensics for cryptocurrency together with Greg, for example, or we do recovery. And recovery is, you lose your crypto and we help you to recover it. Most of the time, you're not recovering anything, by the way. If you lose it, you schmooze it. But we also train on, for example, law enforcement investigators, how they can do the seizing of crypto. And not crypto, like when you guys have crypto, you don't have to worry about this. This is more like about people who trafficking children or who doing money laundering, but for drug cartels or terrorist fundraising. So it's just really bad people. They don't have enough manpower. B, they're too lazy, I think, too, to just go after every regular dude that runs around there. So really, it's like, like more real criminals. And we pretty much teach also cryptocurrency investigations to law enforcement, the military, and we're teaching them how, for example, terrorists do fundraising with crypto, like with NFTs, so non-fungible tokens, or DeFi, how they use DeFi, or latest even how to do, for example, how to do mining. So they're going to do now mining as well, because it seemed to be, with the pricing right now for cryptocurrencies and crypto assets in general, mining is very lucrative. It's a sucker with the machines to get them because of the pricing, but you could get a machine from China and you can mine between, let's say, $200 to $300 right now in ETH, depending on the price. If it crashed, then of course the price of the course crashes with that too. And then of course also we're going to train them always on Telegram, a little bit dark web, but the dark web is really, it's not anymore. The dark web is kind of like has become a sucker because it's like a shopping mall that's always closed because all the drug dealers and cartels, they try to move into the dark web, but then there's not enough foot traffic and there are lots of better things out there. And I don't know, Avi, did you hear about, for example, what is it? Interplanetary file system?
No.
You didn't hear about that?
No.
Good
Tell me
Wait.
about it. Tell me about it.
So, and I always forget the shortcut. Probably, let me try to look this up here. IPFS, I think this is what it is. I'm terrible. Yes, here we go. Interplanetary file system. I could have come up with that by myself. But, so the thing is, now we have the dark web, and when you, for example, when you're a criminal, let's say I work for a drug lord somewhere in Mexico or in South America or wherever, and he says, "You, Carmen, you're building me now. You're going to do this cryptocurrency for me." And so I sit there and I have all these things, but I don't know what to do with it. And I, try to sell the drugs online, but where do I go with it? Because if I use a regular website on a clear web, then the government is shutting me down, taking the domain down, taking all the files down, whatever it is. If I go on the dark web, it's same sucker because somebody else shuts me down, or I have to always check my butt and look at everything so that thing doesn't go down. So with that IPFS now, IPFS is actually, think of it like internet on a blockchain or websites on a blockchain. So it's like a file sharing system, and nobody can take down your websites. So you can use Unstoppable, for example, and get a domain name. And that domain name, which is kind of cool too, with Unstoppable, and I'm not getting paid for this Unstoppable thing, by the way, but you can go to Unstoppable, get yourself a domain name with your first name or your wife's name, and then you can connect it pretty much to all of your crypto addresses. So let's say for me, for example, it's Carmen and Carmen.crypto, and you can send me, for example, if you want to send me ETH, all what you have to do is put Carmen.crypto into the address, and it sends me the ETH. If you want to send me Bitcoin, you do the same. You don't have to have an address, nothing. And on the back end of Unstoppable, I can set it up in there and put all of the addresses that are kind of like trafficking from there. So which is kind of cool. But the real cool thing for criminals is, of course, that I can create a website on IPFS or put files out there and sell drugs or guns or weapons, whatever it is, and nobody can take it down. Like the FBI tried to take down Uniswap. Couldn't do it.
Yep.
So this is almost like, plus you don't need to jump through hoops like you do with the dark web, with Tor, for example. So it's much easier for criminals. And so I think that's going to be the new thing. Right now, if you want to buy drugs, and that's not, your audience should not buy drugs online. But if they would not go to the dark web. They actually would go to Telegram. So Telegram is probably right now the number one place to buy drugs.
It is?
Yeah, Telegram, buy drugs, buy weapons, pedophilia, child trafficking, human trafficking.
Telegram is number one for that? I didn't know that.
See that? Now you learned something today. Ha! You see that?
No
it's good.
joke.
Well.
Are you for real? So I didn't know that Telegram had taken over from the other formats, and I mean that's amazing. I mean, but
probably 12 months ago, maybe it started. Maybe 24 months. It almost like had the history of Uniswap. That sounds crazy, but if you guys know how Uniswap, nobody knew Uniswap, and then boom, everybody wanted to do Uniswap. And the same was with Telegram for criminals. So everybody was on the dark web / Tor in this case. And then made boom, and they all went to Telegram. Because with Telegram, it's easy, for example, to get your customers. So if I want to buy drugs and I have to go to the dark web, I have to use Wunix or some other stuff to just be getting securely in there. And with Telegram, I just put it on my phone. I use a burner phone maybe, and that's it. So, and what you do is you go into groups. There are different groups there where you can do purchases. And that's pretty much it. It's super easy. Lots of traffic, and terrorism is also going on there. So there's terrorist fundraising, but terrorism actually moved also. It's like for example, if you go to Facebook and Twitter a lot now too, there's a lot of terror fundraising going on. All sorts. Everybody on their mother is today a terrorist these days. So, but yeah, Telegram is the number one.
Telegram is the number one.
The guy who owns Telegram is always going from one country to the other one. It's like, have you ever heard about Hodl Hodl? So Hodl Hodl, or Hodl Hodl, that's another website where you have all the street dealers. Like, for example, let's say I sell drugs. And the more drugs I sell, I can't bring that money to the bank. So what I have to do is I'm going to put it in a house. And now my apartment is just full of money. So everything is full of money. And so hodlhodl.com is where a lot of money laundering is happening. And the guy from Hodl Hodl does it the same way like Telegram. He moves around, so you can't really take down that place too much. And here you can buy, for example, similar to local Bitcoin, I think, what we had before, but they have some form of KYC, know your customer in there. But with this one, there's no KYC. And let's say the Bitcoin price, I think, is today at 54,000. So if you look there, probably you're going to have to pay probably up to 80,000 certain places. but no KYC, of course. And now with everything, anyway, now when I say this, I mean, HODL was pretty much, they probably had the upper hand maybe the last couple of months, but now the trend anyway over the last, also again, maybe since pandemic, I think started, the trend is really going very strong to anyway, no KYC in regards to, all the swaps that we have there, all the Uniswaps and whatever. There's a lot of places that are really moving into that. And a lot of people just don't want to do KYC anymore. And there are a lot of exchanges actually where you don't have to do KYC anymore. And plus, what is kind of interesting too with wrapped Bitcoin now, before, criminals always like Bitcoin. So they always want to have Bitcoin. But they couldn't really participate. You couldn't really do any mingling and wingling using Uniswap. But then, people start using more and more wrapped Bitcoin. So pretty much wrapped Bitcoin is similar to a stable coin. So one wrapped Bitcoin is usually worth the same as a Bitcoin, for example. And so they take the Bitcoin, then they can participate in Uniswap and then buy all that Ethereum stuff that floats around in there, and then swap around and then have something else floating around there. So that's kind of like how everything is right now. And then NFTs now, of course, NFTs. And if you guys don't know NFTs, NFTs are really great. I love NFTs. So NFTs are non-fungible tokens.
But I definitely want to know how NFTs are being used in your world. So yeah, tell me.
Very easy for fundraising. So fundraising, if you do, for example, if you're a terrorist and you want to do fundraising, you just create a whole bunch of small NFTs. And of course, right now with Ethereum and the gas fee is so high, it's a little bit of an issue, but you can create, let's say, CryptoKitties. I create 500 CryptoKitties and people are buying them, and they buy them for like $50. Of course, with CryptoKitties, if you raise too much, people will notice it. If you sell a CryptoKitty for $5,000 or for $10,000 or 100,000, people will say, "Oops, there's a kitty for 100 grand." But if you stay kind of low profile at the 100, 200 mark or 300 mark, nobody knows. So, but then also you can tie NFTs to real physical things too, kind of like used for fundraising. And then you have DeFi. So, and DeFi, of course, sounds stupid too, because DeFi is really decentralized finance. But then, DeFi, when I talk about DeFi, I mean the lending and all that stuff. So, and there you have a lot of stuff going on too, where you have a lot of money laundering in. So DeFi, lots of money laundering, lots of fraud, but also combined with the terror activity. And terrorists are pretty smart too. When we think about NFTs again, fundraising for terrorists. And then we have also, for example, the IPFS for selling drugs and stuff like that. So you have all these different things in there. And the IPFS, before I forget it, is actually just not websites, but also file storage. So you're going to have pedophilia floating around in there too. It's going to be a perfect place. And there's not a lot. You can't have your cake and eat it too, or something like this, what they say always. So I can't make it. If I give the power to the people usually abuse it.
Yeah.
And I kind of like I really love the interplanetary file system, but the problem is the enforcement, of course. And I love NFTs. I'm a big fan. I have my own CryptoKitties.
I'm a huge fan of NFTs, yeah.
It needs regulation, but if you get regulation, then it doesn't function right anymore. So it has to be decentralized. Decentralized, when something is, and that's something also we teach always, people say, oh, there's a decentralized application and, they can't get them really. How do they get hold of them? How do they catch them? They just get the developers because somebody had to build that decentralized application. So nothing is really decentralized. I think when they start using AIs to control everything, then we could talk about a decentralized way, like a true decentralized way. But right now, nothing is really decentralized, just kind of like semi.
You've just covered a lot of ground in terms of people who are already in this space and they already know these acronyms. They know what NFTs are. They know what DeFi is. They're aware of some of these platforms. I mean, heck, I've been around this block, as you know, more times than I can count, and I never even heard of HODL. But, what's even more interesting is that the SEC, as well as also some big players in this space, are also trying to constantly do things to stop the little people, i.e. the rest of the world, from being screwed over or being harmed by people who have very dark ideas that they want to push onto people within the space. And so what I first want to talk about is that from today, OKCoin has delisted Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision, which are BCH and BSV, because they want to prevent new retail investors from being deceived. Now, both of those coins were born from Bitcoin forks. The prices of these coins have pretty much remained unaffected at this time, and it's going to be interesting to see if other exchanges do the same. But I was actually saying a couple of weeks ago here on this podcast that there are a lot of people who are coming to this space. They're very new. They don't know what's what, and they see the word Bitcoin. And folks, you'll probably know better than me which podcast it was. But, there are people who really don't know what the hell they're doing. They see the word Bitcoin and they think, oh, that must be Bitcoin. So they're basically buying everything that says Bitcoin on it, thinking it is Bitcoin. So it is interesting, though, because here's an exchange who's trying to do something to protect the space as such, unlike the example you gave with HODL HODL. And then, of course, when we were just talking about NFTs and bringing in regulation, I'm not going to say since day one, because the SEC is still late to the game. The SEC in the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission, they're always so far behind you can barely see them. Even though they're trying to keep up the momentum, they're trying to keep up the pace with what's happening. And even, over the years, there have been billions of dollars in terms of scams. All this has been happening actually since the beginning of time within the crypto and blockchain space. Of course, it was really bad. It really picked up a momentum during 16, 17, and 18, but crypto scams have been going on since, almost the beginning of crypto, or since this real hold in 2012, I think, is when really these scams started to come forth. And even as of late, only a couple of weeks ago, the SEC charged the organizers of Bitcoin 2 Gen because they held an ICO defrauding participants, i.e. investors, $11 million. They basically took from people who were interested in their promises of high returns on investments with their own cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, which of course was Bitcoin with two I's for coin. It said BITCOIN. It's BitCoin.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
it's terrible.
It is terrible. So this is the thing. People are doing is kind of like bait and switch. If it looks like Bitcoin, it must be Bitcoin. If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it must be a duck. And this is literally what people are thinking. Oh, it says Bitcoin. And, if you're a bit illiterate or dyslexic and you read that, you think you're buying Bitcoin. So, there's now 3 people who are in deep water with the SEC in the United States. And, this has been going on for some time, obviously. I would say relatively recently, in the last 3 years, let's say, where the SEC really has started to charge at these ICOs where they say they've been doing illegal fundraising and going after them. Now, B2C, this scam that the SEC just went after. This is the one that was also promoted by Steven Seagal, the actor, who ended up, who ended up paying a large amount of money in penalties. He agreed to pay $157,000 in disgorgement, $157,000 penalty, and an undisclosed amount of prejudgment interest. And he also accepted not to promote any securities for 3 years. Seagal was promised $250,000 in cash, $750,000 worth of Bitcoin coins, Bitcoin coins, for once, so he was promised these native cryptocurrencies for promoting the project once the sale completed. So that puts him in the same kind of place as DJ Khaled and Floyd Mayweather, who were also penalized by the SEC for promoting things because they're using their good name and their goodwill as such. They're using their good name, their image, and their brand to promote things which were they're not 100% honest, or were deemed by the SEC to not be 100% in, looking after the investors' pockets. There's a report that just came out. There's 16 billion which has been stolen. And by the way, when I read this number, and I don't want to say the name of this report, but maybe I should. Okay, yeah. So apparently there's a document that's just been released called the Crypto Investor Scam Report. And they basically said that investors have lost $16 billion since 2012 across 132 different scams. But only 10% or 14 projects have seen their members charged and sentenced to date. Now, the funny thing is I read this and I thought, no frickin' way. It can't be that little. Because just OneCoin themselves is supposed to be a $2.1 billion scam. So, and I can think of right now off the top of my head, 20 scams, which were in the hundreds of millions. So how can it be that that this report found only 16 billion has been scammed from millions of people? I mean, do you think that number is correct?
No, it's like the same with chain analysts. Chain analysts, like software investigators are using. They say, I don't know what it was. They say, oh yeah, the number of crime using Bitcoin went down or cryptocurrency. It's all baloney, because how would anybody actually know? If you think about all the ways you can do these things,
yeah,
like Zangle, how the hell do they know it was 16 billion?
Yeah.
I was doing one of the scams, was 1.3 billion, I remember, where I was working on something. It was 1.3 billion. It was just one dude. So
I know, right?
It's definitely a lot more than 16 billion, but you can't trust these numbers anyway. It's like, yeah, Chainalysis or Zangle, they wouldn't know. They don't know. Nobody can really know, because it's just so much. These ones just regular scams. And like I said before, like YouTube makes me really angry these days, because there are even more scams out there. But they're kind of like scams that you can't really go and say, hey, I'm going to sue you or going to report you. It's like, all these YouTube channels, they're saying, oh, Bitcoin is going to the moon. You buy this and you got the secret coin for you, the top 5 coins that will make you $1 million out of 1,000. And you're thinking, dear Lord. Mm-hmm. And then when it doesn't go to the moon, then you don't see them, or they say, oh, yes, I predicted.
Yeah. And do you know what? It's really sad, because there are so many people shilling. There's so many people out there talking about coins and giving insight when they don't have the first faintest clue what the hell is really, what these coins are even about. Some of them are, I would say even a lot of them are scams. I mean, you see this for yourself on YouTube and these other channels, and dare I say even other podcasts even. Not this podcast, folks. We're trying to protect
Not
you.
This podcast. This podcast is the best. The absolute best.
This podcast is trying to save you from being scammed and trying to help you make educated decisions on how to use your money. And by the way, we are not giving any advice on this podcast. Never invest in anything that anyone tells you to invest in. Do your own homework, do your own research, figure out what's right for you. And if you can't figure it out, go find yourself a registered, certified, professional financial advisor to help you navigate these waters. And also, of course, the golden rule, never invest more than you can afford to lose. But now that we kind of did that disclaimer, in the Philippines, the SEC in the Philippines published a notice warning against a cryptocurrency scam known as BitAccelerate, where this scam was luring investors with promises of up to 350% return on investment. But they warned the scammers that they face $100,000 in fine and up to 21 years behind bars if they are convicted. The SEC warned the public that BitAccelerate is not allowed to operate. They're not authorized to operate in the Philippines. And they are a crowdfunding platform on the blockchain, which apparently, allegedly, they don't have a blockchain at all. They have nothing.
That's the most important part, not to have in the blockchain.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but what people are trying to do are the payouts, which are, of course, eye-catching. People are believing in this stuff. And this is the power of social media and the internet. Just because somebody says something, it must be true. It's incredible. Yeah. And actually is saying that this BitAccelerate project, they're warning people not to go near it and not to touch it. Yet, if you go onto YouTube, you will find videos on BitAccelerate and how to deposit and invest in it. There are a lot of these videos. They've got people watching it. I mean, it actually says on there, and they've got people using them, and there's comments. I mean, not tons of comments, but the fact that they are allowed to go out there and advertise this scam, no one can touch this. And you just feel sorry for the poor soul who has got some money and he's thinking, God, I'm really, it's all FOMO, fear of missing out. God, I'm really missing out on this Bitcoin thing. I'm going to take this money I have and I'm going to throw it into this BitAccelerate project I saw on YouTube. And the next thing you know, many of these crypto projects, they just run off with them. What's the next step then? What's going to happen, Carmen? I mean, with all these projects that are still getting through the filters, the scams that are still out there, it's incredible that not enough people in the crypto community can kind of get together and shut these down, even in the comments section, leaving comments saying, hey, this is a scam. Don't look at this.
That's the bad part with crypto. It's like, I think they're all greedy. Because they get usually, you have the regular scams like the one you just described, where people say, hey, you have to get that, but it's all a scam and they know that.
Yep.
But then you have also the things where where you have a lot of YouTubers, and really YouTube, Twitter too, but YouTube is really big with that stuff, where these guys go out and say, this one is going to go to the moon, and we reviewed it, and we checked it, and we did due diligence. Or where they even sell you now newsletters for like $2,000 a year, and they give you the best altcoin picks every month. It's like, dude, this is like crazy. How the hell do you know which one's the best altcoins are anyway? So you have them all there, and then they do the technicals. So they use TradingView, for example, and then they show you, we're predicting now. There's one guy, and I keep forgetting his name, but always when I see him, when he predicts the market is going down, which he does now for the whole last, let's say, 12 months, you can always say the market is going up. But now after doing it 50 times now, and every time he sits there and he does it live and he talks about it and the market's going down as I predicted, and then it goes up, and then last time he said, oh yeah, I think, it's really a bull run and da-da-da-da-da. And then he wants to sell his technical analysis. I'm terrible with that word, analysis. So meaning like the charts where Bitcoin is going to go or where the S&P 500 is going to go. And they all do the same things. They try to make money. They don't know what they're doing. And TAs, putting the charts together for crypto, it's almost mission impossible because crypto does whatever the hell it wants. It's tied to the stock market. No financial advice, by the way. Tied to the stock market, but it does the hell what it wants. Too small of a market and too much manipulation is in there.
Well, you say that, but I mean, then you have people, we already talked about actors in this space, such as Steven Seagal, whether you like him come on, whether you like him or not, he still has people.
I watched his movies. I was one of his biggest fans.
Well, I gotta tell you, if that is exactly how it works. I mean, that's why people pay influencers to to talk to their fan base and to get them to believe in whatever the hell the person who's being paid is saying. But you then look at someone like Elon Musk, who's like, buy Doge or buy Mars coin, and the next thing you know, these are just hyper. I mean, it's just a hyper market. Everything is going supersonic. I mean, it's just crazy. Mars coin, they actually had to put a disclaimer on Mars coin on CoinMarketCap the other day saying this has nothing to do with Elon Musk because the price of the coin skyrocketed because Elon Musk said we need to do this Mars coin thing and we need to, he was pumping it whatever which way. But it goes to show you that if the wrong word in the right ear, it just leads to someone's going to end up crying, and I just wonder who it's going to be one day.
It's usually the poor people that they have $500 left and they say, wow, maybe I can make it, and they put the $500 in there, and Musk says, hey, Dogecoin is the best thing on the planet, and they say, wow, and they don't know that Dogecoin is just a joke. So they put the last $500 in there, it goes up, and they say, wow, and then it just goes down to the toilet, as everybody would thought. So I mean, like, wow.
Well, Bitcoin, regardless, even before Musk started to put his messy hands in this, Bitcoin already had this tendency to attract attention whenever it went on a bull run. And this, of course, also drives new people into this market. But when you have new investors who have no experience and they have no idea how to identify the scams, they don't know what to look for in terms of these like ICOs, which are completely fake or 100% outright fraudulent, these really shady trade groups, bad exchanges, like you pointed out, ones that don't even need any KYC. It's incredible. But, this is the thing. We keep trying to educate, and this is what this podcast is really about, because when you look at all of these different types of scams, you have, the social media stuff, as we've already proven, as you know, even before Elon was giving proper, from his own account, he's been, saying, you should invest in this and invest in that. He had a Twitter hack. I think it was last year, right? So They hacked into Elon Musk's Twitter, and they basically sent out a tweet from his account saying that, and this was purportedly, looked like it was coming from Elon Musk's account. And he said, "I'm feeling generous. Send me Bitcoin and I will double it and send it back to you." And they gave a Bitcoin address, and $121,000 US worth of Bitcoin was sent. This is how incredibly stupid, just unthinking people can really be in this space. Because like you said, look, everybody wants to make a buck. Of course we can say it's greed, but I think in this day and age when so many people don't have jobs, it could just be, look, they're looking at any which way that they can try to make some money right now, because a lot of people are out of jobs. And I'm not saying everybody that is doing this, by the way, is out of a job. There's a lot of people who do have jobs still in this day and age, and it's of course a good way to try to increase your savings. Well, that's what they think anyway. And folks, remember what I said about doing a lot of due diligence and doing your homework. But there's also a lot of other fake exchanges out there. There was, of course, the South Korean-based BitKRX, which lured all these people in with promises of profits that were unbelievable, just like this one in the Philippines, 350% return. And, people still don't understand that when it is too good to be true, it's because it is too good to be true. They're still going full head speed into this. We all know, like I said before, that 2016 and 17, it was crazy. I mean, every other project that I was reading about, I was going scam, scam, scam. It was even more than every other. It was more than 50% were scams. What do you think is going on right now in this space? First of all, the ICO world, it doesn't look like it's anywhere even near where it was in 16 and 17.
Not much going on in the ICO world, actually. There's really not much running there. I mean, they right now, I guess the tendency is to, create your own projects, get some investors in there, or do self-investing, and then, start running the coins and then make the money, generate revenue with that, or revenue, shouldn't call it like this, but get money, funds in like that. And if you look at some of these projects, like, wow, what they're worth, like Cardano or some of the other ones, you're just going to roll your eyes. So I think that's the way to go right now. Some of us still do ICOs, but ICOs, you remember, they're pretty much more regulated, and these things are much harder to do right now.
Well, they are, but not the stuff in the DeFi space. Because in the DeFi space, you've had people like Amplify.money who basically collected 2,500 ETH from investors, and then they disappeared into the night.
DeFi is like when you think of crypto as the Wild West, you can think of DeFi right now as the wild west.
Well, DeFi is so crazy at the moment, but I don't think we've seen the last of high-profile DeFi exit scams. I don't think we've seen that.
That's where all the crime goes now, is DeFi. So you have NFTs, but you have DeFi a lot now. DeFi is more and more now. This is where really everything goes to, because it is so-called decentralized. So the funds really can flow, and it's super easy for money laundering. It's a treasure trove for criminals. DeFi.
DeFi is, dare I say, even more unregulated than the unregulated market. Yep. DeFi is even more unregulated than the unregulated markets of crypto at this current place in time. I mean, there is, it is absolutely crazy what is going on in the DeFi space. And you're right, you keep mentioning NFTs. I mean, NFTs, it's just nuts. I mean, in the last 30 days, I was just reading $100 million have gone into people selling their non-fungible tokens representing all kinds of things from sports, the equivalent of sports trading cards and really ugly art, to just all kinds of strange things that are being represented by NFTs. Because, most stuff in the world is non-fungible, so NFTs can represent pretty much anything, and people are asking astronomical prices for things that a normal person, if it was just in a antique shop or a charity shop, you wouldn't give 2 cents for. And I think I got my biggest laugh the other day when Mark Cuban sold one of his tweets for a stupid amount of money, and he sold it as a non-fungible token. Now, if people are going to start selling their tweets as non-fungible tokens, I think we're getting into an even sadder place in this world. I already thought that we were going somewhere a bit ridiculous, but that flight to Mars is starting to look really attractive to me. The more ridiculous things kind of become. But, who am I to say that? I mean, at the end of the day, there's probably a lot of people out there who are huge Mark Cuban fans. I have nothing against the guy.
This is stupid advice as well, financial advice that he shouldn't give to people, where he says all sorts of nonsense, going to the moon.
Well,
wow.
He does say a lot of nonsense. He does say things he shouldn't be saying. It's very easy when you're very rich to be so flippant with the words that you use. And, and because people think that he knows the secret money trail, when he does things like tokenize his frickin' tweets, then people are thinking, okay, yeah, this is going to be worth $1 billion one day or whatever. And so they're buying it. What they don't realize is that they're making him richer. But anyway, so we're mentioning a whole number of ways that people are getting their hooks into other people's money. And of course, you also talked about, at the very beginning of the show, you talked also about mining scams, which is it's one of the most effective ways to steal people's Bitcoin.
You have scams in regards to if you do cloud mining, scams in regards to joining different pools, but then also scams in regards to buying hardware. Like in the US, we have they're often these kind of guys, they do events in different towns, and then they do a session on how to get rich with crypto mining. And then at the end of the session, they're going to sell you, the rigs that they have, the machines for it. Yep. Of course, they are much more expensive than anywhere else.
Yeah, and it's sad, but, just talking about the cloud mining scams, I mean, because this is the one which is the easiest scam to pull over on someone, because this is where you don't even have to do that effort of showing up in a town and having some fake equipment with you. All you do is a company asks you, it's a website, and a company says, invest your Bitcoin here. You'll receive a share in the platform's hash power, and this hash power will go towards mining Bitcoin, and then you will receive a percentage of the profits, which of course this will be split amongst all the pool members. But of course, all that happens is someone takes all the Bitcoin and runs with it. And this is used still constantly. And it's actually quite sad, because I think there's only ever been one arrest within this whole cloud mining scheme. And there were 3 men, and they were arrested for stealing, guess how much money? You'll never guess, so I'll just tell you. $722 million US. $722 million US via the BitClub network. Now, I got to tell you something. What's even worse is that it was like a Ponzi in a way, because they rewarded investors for bringing in new investors. Can you imagine losing your money because your friend told you that they were doing this? You'd be so pissed. But, this is the thing. these exist hand over fist because people are not doing their homework. They're really not. And so did you know about that one? Can you imagine just putting up a website and making these empty promises, and then you've got like $700 million, and of course you have these hardware wallet thefts. You know about these, right?
Oh, don't let me get started on that.
Go.
Hardware,
Get
say
started.
something about that? Makes me angry too.
Go on.
Now, all these people are going to say this now to all of the listeners. If you go on YouTube and anybody who gives you like the Ledger and says the Ledger is a great wallet, ban that damn channel. Never watch it again. Never listen to a word they are saying because it's all bull and baloney. So the Tether is bad and not secure, but I still kind of like it because it's kind of like a classical thing. I do still like it. But you can't put more than $100 on it because lose it or schmooze it. It has no secure chip. It is kind of junk, but I still like it. So I have to say it like this. The Ledger I truly hate with a passion because the Ledger is just not again, you can't put more than $150 on it. Otherwise, you're going to lose it or schmooze it. B, you lose it because they don't have their act together. So A, they're hacks. And then B, lots of people putting like fake. So let's say you want to go and check how much you have on your Ledger. You go there, you go to the app or whatever you do, and it's a fake one. They are not really taking good care of that stuff. So people just go, they put their stuff in there, their private key and everything into the wrong place. I'm sorry to say that. It sounds so bad. And they lose it. I mean, like really a lot of them. So Ledger is really, anybody tells you Ledger is good, the Tether is good, not very, very good. There's only really a few that are really good or that are good. But again, like any of these hardware wallets, you have to take it like with a grain of salt, really. I have a whole bunch laying here right now. There was one that I really liked. Let me look. I'm still looking. Bitbox. That's the only one that I liked. I'm not selling that one either, so we don't sell any wallets, so don't worry. But the Bitbox was so far great. That one I liked. I tested that. I talked to some of the guys there, so that was a really good one. It was a really lovely one. But again, for all of the hardware wallets, they are not secure. There was one thing, you buy crypto and you want to really keep it for yourself, like the private keys. Then I would look into it. I think it's called Stonebook, which I think is kind of cool. Let me look this up if I say it correctly. Again, I'm not affiliated with any of them. It's called Stonebook by shieldfolio.com, I think. And that thing is kind of cool too. It's like a notebook where you can put your private keys in there.
A lot of people do not like at all the idea of storing their crypto on an exchange, and they want it off exchange in a cold wallet. But what I will say is the following, and people need to understand this. You should never buy a used hardware wallet, ever, 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 or even one from a place like eBay. Do not buy your hardware wallets from any kind of secondhand marketplace. You should never, ever be shopping for anything that involves protection of your crypto on anything that's used on a used marketplace type. Just remember if I could give you any advice, listeners, that you would remember, it's that. We talked about fake mining rigs, people coming into towns. Well, we actually do have a book. I've published a book called The Beginner's Guide to Crypto Mining.
I love that one.
Do you love that one? I have 7 books out, one of them which is on The Beginner's Guide to Crypto Mining. And in there, you can build your own rig. And this way, you don't have to rely on someone else giving you an empty box or something, something that basically is just not going to work for you. There are many reputable companies that you can purchase a mining rig from. But if you don't want to do that and you have a little bit of ingenuity to you, then you can actually build your own rig. And so I just want to mention that as in case, you were looking for a project to do during this time of quarantine or just, like I said, ingenuity. So I wanted to ask you, as we both know, ICOs are not really as prevalent as they were some years ago, but still scams are out there and things are happening in this space. As we've already covered a bunch of them. We've covered, I think, every different type of scam that's out there and what people need to look at. But I just wanted to talk to you for a minute about what's going on out there in terms of a more serious topic. And even though I'm quite jovial normally on my own podcast.
Oh my, a serious topic.
It's kind
late.
of, yeah, well.
Tell me, what is it? What is this serious topic? Don't make it too serious.
It's kind of hard to
Life is already depressing. Remember this before you start something serious.
Listen, you're the one who picked profession to go into. You're the one who made the choice. So,
I'm going to do more mining now. I'm just the teaching and the mining.
But listen, I have to ask you this. What is going on now in the world? Because I know that you train all of these law enforcement groups, all of these people within law and military, and everything's going on in crypto. They can't even regulate the space as it is right now. And as we've already mentioned 4,000 times, there are a ton of ways that you can get your money laundered through this system, or you can be a nefarious type of person with a very unsavory occupation or occupations, and you can be processing your money through DeFi or through some of these exchanges which require KYC. So is it the case, I should say, that crypto is the de facto currency of choice now? I mean, is it now just the case that bad people are just flocking to crypto like mad, and they're not even looking at any other methods of payment and laundering now? They're not even looking at the traditional banking system. They're not looking at fiat currencies, everyday government issued currency. Is it the case that terrorists, arms dealers, drug barons, that they're just looking at crypto now? Is crypto the de facto currency? For
the drug cartels, they were switching from killing everybody on the street and doing all the street dealing. They were actually moving into having a website on Tor, for example. That's what they did, because just, it's much more efficient. Just sending stuff out by mail, much easier. But now with all these things happening, and they do money laundering, whatever they do, crypto is the place to be, really. And crypto is not as bad for, you don't have just criminals there, but it's an easy target right now. That's the shameful thing, because like I said, the storage that you have in the decentralized storage you can use, and Bitcoin. Say, let's think I'm a drug dealer, have a drug organization, and I put up $1 million a year ago in Bitcoin. I mean, if I did that, let's say for $3,000, so what was it, $3,700, whatever it was? I mean, I don't even have to do drug deals anymore. I'm doing quite well. Mm-hmm. So Bitcoin is really Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin is usually the choice number one, and now it moved over to also Ethereum stuff. So Ethereum on Uniswap and other places. And I think it's going to stay like this, and it's just going to get more and more. And especially DeFi with the lending and the smart contracts, this is going to be enormous because there's no regulation. Because most people, even right now, even if you look at YouTube or social media, where they, say, hey, you put, buy whatever token and we give you, or buy a stable coin, put $10,000 in stable coins and we give you 16% interest every year. I mean, where do you get 16%? I saw one with 25 or 26%. So, of course, it runs through a smart contract, and the smart contract is not true, or if it's a sucker, or it just doesn't work after a while, then you sit there and all the money is in that contract forever. But DeFi is going to be, I think, the big thing for crime over the next couple of years, because there's not going to be, for insurance products maybe, but not for the lending, for example. It's just, if you look at KYC, and it all runs anyway right now. Most of DeFi, when you look at the DeFi products that we have there, it's like, you can look at DeFi Pulse, I think. It's probably 95% is on Ethereum. And now you have some other ones coming up, like so-called Ethereum killers. But it almost reminds me on Apple and the Microsoft phone. When I worked at Microsoft, they gave us a Microsoft phone, and this is a long time ago. These Microsoft phones were total junk. And that dude came into the office and said, hey, I got this Apple phone. It was the first Apple phone. He loved it because everybody on the Microsoft phone, there were no apps. It was just, there was nothing going on. But then on the Apple phone, we had like a Star Wars lightsaber thing and all sorts of on there. So everybody in the office at Microsoft got Apple phones. And so it spread around. So everybody at Microsoft was using it. I know it didn't end very well. But because Microsoft was actually paying for the builds. It's the same with Ethereum. So we have Bitcoin, and you will hear also that Bitcoin, in the beginning, people were talking about Bitcoin is great for transactions. It's going to change the world. It's all baloney. Bitcoin is old, it's slow, and it stinks. But on a good note is they changed this thing where they say, wow, we're going to use it for transactions. They changed it over to, hey, it's a store of value, like gold. Of course, it's not really gold. Now, Ethereum on the other side, if you just look at the transactions, how many blocks are going into the blockchain, for example, you can see this on there. There are a couple of websites that have animations in there. You see on one side, you see Bitcoin, like a snail walking around there. And then you see Ethereum. And then all of the tokens, of course, and projects that are floating around there. So you could see already that it's that Ethereum itself, with all of the products that are surrounding it and this chain of applications that are out there and dApps, that's kind of like it's going to be the whole time. But then, of course, you have other products floating around there too. So, and when we look at criminals, they're going to use that. They're going to use the NFTs. And some of them, like Mark Cuban, of course, doesn't know when you push an NFT, or some of the terrorists don't know that too. So you say, hey, I got this NFT and you have to do it and do whatever. You can see all of the stuff that is in their wallet, because when you create an NFT, when you mint it, it runs through your wallet. So it has to have a confirmation in there. So it means if you have your MetaMask wallet, and then you have ETH in there and some other crypto assets, like Mark Cuban has a lot of AV, for example, in there. He has like 135,000.
He has a lot of AVA, yeah.
And you can see in everybody's wallet, of course, which some of the birds don't even know, because nobody looks at the Ether scan, really. They all look at just at the Bitcoin part.
So what do you think in terms of the regulation?
There will be regulation in the United States with the current administration, but they're kind of seeing that this is not going to go well for them. So I think United States more regulation, Europe some regulation, but much more support for cryptocurrency. This is what I see already when I look at Europe and I compare Europe with the United States. I think it's better off in Europe than it is in the United States. While in the United States, actually, we have a better market for pretty much anything. But I think we're going to get some harsh regulations, and then like just the Tether thing, for example. So some of the stablecoin stuff, I think that's going to go down to this year or probably next year. It's going to be some issues. So I think more regulation in the United States, less in Europe.
So regardless of the amount of regulation that's going to be brought in by any country in the world, US SEC, SEC anywhere in whatever country, it's not really going to stop the people who are doing the most egregious of crimes and the most horrible of people from hiding their money or from doing scams, because in many cases it's still true you can't find them. Isn't that the case, Carmen? I mean, you still can very much so hide your crypto. Isn't that the case?
Yes, you can hide your crypto easily. So like, let's say United States, they're all talking about that, you're going to have to register a hardware wallet, blah, blah, blah. But only idiots are using hardware wallets. Sorry to say that. So you're going to use an offline wallet. So an offline wallet, you create your own wallet. You're going to use a script. You can get it from Ian Coleman or other places. Then you're going to put it on a clean thumb drive. You throw it on a machine that is for anything, no network card in there, nothing. And then I'm going to create a bunch of addresses and private keys. And they're not on the blockchain. Nobody can see them. Nobody knows they even exist. They're just on my computer right now. And from there, I can push funds in there. Then, of course, they exist because the funds are going through the blockchain. But then I can also do swaps. So swaps are really popular too, or they're getting really popular. So swaps is almost like, it's like a P2P thing. Yeah, so person to person, where I run an application, use an application, but it's not going to be right away. It can be done actually also offline, so it doesn't end up right away on the blockchain either. Only when it's closed down and the contract is happening and the transaction occurs. So I don't really hardware wallet. I don't need really a centralized exchange. I don't really need an exchange period if I don't want one. So there's so many ways. And if I think, for example, let's say I have lots of drug money that I want to get rid of, that I want to change to crypto. I'm not going to an exchange. I'm going to use a street dealer. I'll meet up with a person. I'm going to give one Bitcoin. Let's say Bitcoin is worth $50,000 to keep it easy, and I have to pay maybe $50,000 for it. That's it. So then I pay a lot more, but I didn't really work for my money anyway. and then I have Bitcoin. So there's no way around for the government to stop it. I mean, there's zero. I mean, how would they stop it? The same goes too when, like we talked before about it, when we said like chain analysis, they got this report, less crypto crime. How would they know? So it is pretty much, and the government is too slow. I'm sorry to say this. I wish they would do better with really the real crime that is out there, so like, the drug trafficking, the human trafficking, all that stuff. But then also I wish they would be really more forceful, because we like really cryptocurrency. So, and it's just a shame, like YouTube or social media, that has to be enforced. Like on YouTube, they're selling these people, for example, they have a YouTube show. And then they're going to move, usually, they move the people and say, oh yeah, so they watch the YouTube channel and they do the TA there, so where the technical analysis, and then they start selling them slowly but surely, like kind of like a group thing. So you join my group and it costs like, let's say, $200 or $500 or $2,000 a month or a year, whatever it is, and you can join their group. And then they put on a nice little server, and there's this little group together of people, and then they're going to sell you all sorts of crap. It's all a crime already. That's how the crypto market gets a bad name, because you have all these bad people out there. You go on YouTube, you put in the Bitcoin, they're all coming up, and they all have 100,000 views, 35,000 views, whatever, and they're all floating around there. So that's really bad for Bitcoin, but also for the users and the people who really want to learn more about it, and they're going to watch it, and they're going to get sucked into this nonsense. The regulation, of course, doesn't do much, the regulations that they are, because they're also not really targeting the right people, because there are already regulations out there that say that, you can't just give financial advice to people. And on YouTube, it's everywhere on the planet. And then, of course, they move them into these groups. And Telegram is another one. So sometimes they move into it, and then from Telegram into another group again. Almost like a little sect or like a little cult.
It's going to be very interesting to see how this is all going to pan out. This 16 billion that is so underreported in terms of crypto scams, I think obviously as everything in this space grows, we are going to see that grow for sure. I really don't know if I have faith in the SEC to be able to find the money that's going to go missing from all these people and reimburse them. I think there's going to be a plethora of bad actors in this space. And I had somebody on the podcast that it's easy to track Bitcoin, and I said, no, it's very easy to make your Bitcoin disappear, and nobody will ever know about it. And even though the U.S. government's like, hey, listen, you got to fill in this form, whatever form it is, to report your Bitcoin, or, the UK government or whatever government to report your Bitcoin holdings, I don't think that people really do understand. If you want it to disappear, it easily can.
Following a Bitcoin transaction, you can follow it, and if you do an investigation, you can identify the transaction and then look kind of like, you have to look at other data points too. So where did the funds come? So how did it become crypto in the first place? So from fiat to crypto, what was the on-ramp? What was the off-ramp? Where did it all end up in the middle? You can see some of these things. Sometimes you get an IP address, but if they run their own node, or you can just point down the country, but that's very rare too, especially when we talk about nodes. That's kind of like really difficult as well. Ethereum actually is a little bit better, gives you much more information than Bitcoin, because if they do a peep, if they do an NFT or anything, you usually find their wallet right away. So you can see everything that's found in there. So you have much more data points to get to them. But you just using that one data point, if they never say anything on social media, because you always have to tie it to something else, to a communication on social media, or bank transaction. There has to be something I have to tie it to. So there have to be multiple data points in there, not just, hey, this is the Bitcoin transaction. There's nothing I do with just the Bitcoin transaction, really.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on to Crypto and Blockchain Talk, Carmen. Every time you come, we get so much valuable information, and the listeners, I know, really appreciate hearing from somebody like you who trains law enforcement.
I love it. This is the best show ever, and it tells you so much about crypto. Amazing.
Do you know
You
what?
are truly the queen of crypto.
Do you know, I love you for that so much. I would like to just thank everybody for tuning in and listening to this week's Crypto and Blockchain Talk. Please tell your friends and family that they can listen to us on one of many podcasting platforms. The full list is on cryptoandblockchaintalk.com. You can find everything there that you need in order to listen to this podcast, either direct from the website itself or from one of those many podcasting platforms. In addition, this podcast is streamed on our sister radio station, Crypto 24 Radio, which plays around the world 24/7 news, music, and of course these beautiful podcasts. Furthermore, you can contact us through our normal social media accounts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, but we love to hear from you directly. So please email us at education@savvydigital. That's education@savvy, SAVII digital.com. Again, thank you for tuning in and listening to us. We know you have a choice of podcasts to listen to, and when you tune in and give us your valuable time, it means everything to us. So remember to please take care, be safe, and goodbye.